Hello, everybody. It is July 7th, 2024, and yesterday evening, the Sacramento Kings made a trade. They traded for DeMar DeRozan. Now, in said deal, Sacramento gives up Harrison Barnes and a 2031 pick swap to San Antonio, and Chris Duarte, 2 future seconds, and cash to the Chicago Bulls for the DeRozan swap. So he is now a Sacramento King. And I have some thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and their asset management and their overall roster construction over the last few years. But I'm going to save that for another video because then this video would get entirely too long. But anyway, thinking back to the end of the 2022 season, the Kings are going to miss the playoffs for a 16th straight year. They wind up trading their top 10 pick, Tyrese Halliburton, to Indiana a year and a half after drafting him, basically, for a deal centered around Domantas Sabonis from the Indiana Pacers. And I would presume at the time that the thought or the thinking around Sacramento is we're going to build a team around the two-man punch of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. So they wound up firing Luke Walton early into the year, I think after 17 games. Alvin Gentry took over as the interim, but they decided not to bring him back. So we go into 2022-2023. So you got Sabonis, you got De'Aaron Fox. They draft Keegan Murray 5th overall. They go get Kevin Huerter from the Atlanta Hawks. They have Davion Mitchell is going into his second year. They go get Trey Lyles. They get Malik Monk from the Lakers in a new deal. And they hire Mike Brown. So, when Mike Brown was hired, I'll be the first to admit it was a lot of question marks because while Brown has had success in his career, his last stop with the Lakers didn't exactly go well, and they brought him back for a second go-around with Cleveland just before LeBron James came back, but he only lasted a year there. So we fast forward a decade plus later, the Kings hire Mike Brown. Monte McNair is going into his third year as the GM, and their over-under is 34.5. So you expect them to improve a little bit in 2023 from 2022, but not by much. But with Sabonis and Fox becoming all NBA level players, flanked by Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, Mitchell, Trey Lyles, Terrence Davis, and Chimezie Metu, and Kessler Edwards, who they signed later in the year, but Edwards, the Kings come out of nowhere. They finish as the highest scoring team in 30 years, the best offensive rating ever, bottom 10 defense, but hey, when you can outscore everybody, it don't really matter. Everything coalesces together. The Kings win 48 games, so they smash their over-under projection for the year. They win the division for the first time since 2003. They're hosting a playoff series. And in their bad luck, they draw the Golden State Warriors, the defending champs. Now, they go up 2-0 on the Warriors, but they ultimately lose the series in 7. A game that they led by 2 at halftime, but they just ran out of gas, and then Steph Curry had the game of his life. But it's their most successful season in 20 years, going back to the C-Webb, Bibby, Vlade Divac, Rick Adelman days. So there's definitely a lot to be happy about in Sacramento. And then the offseason comes. So looking at this roster from 23 to going into 2024, the only major change that they made essentially was Chris Duarte, who they traded for from Indiana, so another Pacers trade. They didn't bring back Terrence Davis, who spent the year in the G League. Keon Ellis from his rookie year, played 16 games. He would play 57 games in 2024 and even start 21. He would bring in JaVale McGee, draft Sasha Vesnikov. But the top 10 from last year is essentially the same. So, looking at last year's team to 2024, so offensively, they dropped from first to ninth in terms of points scored. Points allowed, they jump up to 17th. Pace, middle of the pack. But here's the two biggest differences from last year to this year. Now, the Kings' defense, in terms of defensive rating, was 25th in 2023. Their net rating was 8th. And then you combine that with their all-time great offense. Flash forward to 24, they're 13th, 14th, and 17th in those regards. So offense fell to about middle of the pack. Defense climbed to the middle of the pack, which is good, especially when you have continuity with your roster. And your net rating goes to 17th. So they dropped a few spots. Damn near 10. So that's not the greatest look. But anyway, over under 44.5. They finished with 46 wins. So they beat that. And again, the Western Conference is a bloodbath. 10 teams win 46 games. 5 of them win 50. They wound up ninth. And then they draw the Warriors in the first playing game. They beat them. But then they lose to the Pelicans in the second game. And might I add, they lost all 6 games to the Pelicans in the regular season. And none of them were particularly close. So here you go. We're in the 2024 offseason now. You make the DeRozan trade to pair another scorer with De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray, because you would hope Murray would go up another level. You expect about 19 and 12, 20 and 11, and 7 from Sabonis. And De'Aaron Fox is an all-NBA level talent. He was 27, 6 assists last year. So you would hope that he's around the same number. But you look at the West. Everybody is either the same or getting better. 10 play-in teams. You got Houston. They're going to be better, especially depending on if Sengun comes back and his knee is fine. Memphis is going to be better. They were ruined by injuries last year. The Spurs are going to be better, getting both Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul to pair with Wemby. So you've got some veterans that you can place around your number 1 overall pick. The Blazers, they do trade Malcolm Brogdon, but they do get Denny Avdia in a deal from the Wizards, which is something I want to expound on in another video. So you would expect them to be better. So we're talking 13 teams that you're going to be contending for 10 spots with. 13 at minimum. Yeah, I would say 13 because even though the Clippers did lose Paul George, I don't expect them to completely fall off a cliff. Dallas, it's year 3 basically of Doncic and Irving. They did lose Derrick Jones in free agency, but they got Klay Thompson. And that's a video I want to expound on at a later date, so that's coming. You got OKC, Denver, Minnesota. The one piece to look out for right now is the Utah Jazz and what they're going to do with Lowry Markkanen. Because there have been trade rumors and talks with multiple teams. The Warriors being, they've had the most rumors flying around them about what they're going to do, especially after losing Klay Thompson. So I would presume at minimum the Kings are going to be better than the Jazz next year and the Blazers at the very least. So 13 teams. And there was another... Let's see, where is it? There we go. So looking at this roster next year, So you got Fox, Sabonis, DeRozan, Malik Monk, Herter, Murray, Lyles, Jaden McDaniels, who they traded for in an earlier deal for Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vesnikov. Keon Ellis is coming back. Alex Len, they signed Jordan McLaughlin away from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then you round out your roster with Colby Jones, Alex Len, and a couple of two-way guys. So I like this deal for Sacramento for the most part. I think the one thing that I would genuinely be worried about is DeRozan's age, how his game is going to age, because he'll turn 35 next year. And though he's been mostly a 20-foot and in kind of scorer, he can go get you 24, 25 a night. In fact, he's 24 a game the last 9 years, and that's with him not being a volume three-point shooter. So his game has aged so well so far, and he's largely stayed healthy. So that's my thoughts on it for right now. Where Sacramento ends up, I don't particularly know in terms of the Western hierarchy. I think if things break right, they can make the playoffs again. But if everything trends the same, there'll be a play-in team. If there are a couple teams I do expect to drop out next year, or at least one team, it would be the Clippers because of the loss of Paul George, which is also another video I'd want to save for another day. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts on the Sacramento Kings, and I hope to see you for the next video. Enjoy your week.